A kiss, just one quiet, trembling kiss in the darkness would become one of the most haunting turning points in human history, because beneath the flickering torchlight of an olive garden outside Jerusalem, the fate of an entire narrative was about to be sealed, and Jesus Christ stood in that silence with a calm that defied the chaos approaching him, fully aware that betrayal was not arriving as a surprise but as the final step of something already unfolding in the hearts of men, while the night itself seemed to hold its breath as footsteps drew closer through the trees, and among the shadows moved a familiar figure, Judas Iscariot, once a follower, once trusted, now carrying a storm of conflict no one else could see. Because betrayal is never born in a single moment, it is built slowly through disappointment, confusion, unmet expectation, and the silent fracture between what one believes should happen and what reality refuses to become. And to understand this night, you must step back into a world under Roman occupation, where power was not shared but enforced, where hope survived quietly under pressure, and where every gathering crowd was watched with suspicion by both empire and temple authority, because a traveling teacher from Nazareth had begun, drawing attention not through force but through words that reshaped how people saw mercy, forgiveness, and power itself, gathering ordinary men, fishermen, tax collectors, workers who left behind their lives to follow him into uncertainty, believing they were witnessing the rise of a new kind of kingdom. Yet even among them confusion lingered, because some still expected a political uprising while he spoke of humility, peace, and a kingdom not built on swords. And in that tension between expectation and truth, fractures quietly formed until Judas, entrusted with responsibilities among the group, began to drift into isolation, his thoughts increasingly shaped by doubt and calculation, eventually stepping away from the others into the corridors of decision, where he met with religious authorities who feared the growing influence of Jesus and the unrest it could spark under Roman rule. And there, in a hushed exchange and shadowed rooms, a price was agreed upon: 30 pieces of silver, reducing loyalty into transaction and trust into currency, setting in motion a plan that required secrecy, timing, and silence. Because the arrest of Jesus could not happen in daylight without risking the reaction of the crowds who still followed him. And so the moment was chosen carefully during Passover, a sacred time of remembrance and liberation, when Jesus gathered his disciples for a final meal in an upper room, filled with candlelight and unspoken tension, where bread was broken and wine shared in a gesture that carried meanings far deeper than any of them fully understood in that moment. And as the evening unfolded, Jesus spoke words that unsettled every heart present, revealing that one among them would betray him, turning the table into a space of internal questioning, where each man searched his own conscience in fear and uncertainty, while Judas sat in silence, already committed to what he had begun. And as the meal ended, he left into the night, a departure that felt heavier than footsteps alone could explain, as though darkness itself accepted him, while Jesus and the remaining disciples moved toward the Garden of Gethsemane, a place of prayer where the weight of what was coming pressed heavily upon him. And there, in the stillness of olive trees, he faced the approaching hour with resolve, while his closest followers struggled between exhaustion and awareness, unaware of how close everything was to change. Until the sound of movement broke the night. Soldiers, officials, and servants advancing with torches and weapons, guided by someone who knew the path to well. And that guide was Judas, who stepped forward not with anger, but with recognition, greeting Jesus with a kiss that transformed intimacy into signal. And in that instant, the boundary between trust and betrayal collapsed completely as the arrest began. Yet what followed was not resistance, but stillness, a calm that unsettled even those who came to take him, while fear scattered those who had followed him. And the garden that had once held prayer now held silence and consequence. And Judas, having fulfilled what he set out to do, found himself not at the end of a plan, but at the beginning of regret. Because betrayal never ends where it begins. It echoes, it weighs, it follows. And in that heavy silence, the story turned into something irreversible, marking a moment that would be remembered not only for what was done, but for what it revealed about trust, choice, and the fragile nature of human intention.